Digital transformation has been a thing for quite a while, but during this lockdown it's gained such a pace because it's so important to us being able to deliver high quality services that are hands-free to a wide client base. But as we ask around amongst our clients and other institutions, what do they believe digital transformation involves? We get a lot of different explanations. So here's our view on what it is. Digital transformation fits into 3 layers. The first layer describes the transformation itself. The second layer describes how we can deliver that from a process perspective. And the third layer describes the technical delivery of that mechanism. So what is it? Well, first and foremost in digital transformation is the migration to the cloud. Why is that important? It's important for a number of reasons. Firstly, by being able to use external infrastructure, that means that we can both scale up and, if necessary, collapse down our infrastructure based on the demands that we're seeing at the time. Those demands can change, as we've seen with the volatility that's occurred over the last 9 to 10 months. The cloud also outsources some very important labor-intensive activities. The commissioning of machines, the installation of operating systems, machine ops themselves now go to organizations such as Microsoft with Azure, or to Google, or to Amazon Web Services, or indeed to other private clouds. But that reduces the need for us to have staff who are in physical contact with each other or physical contact with a third-party environment in order to provide infrastructure for us. So migration to the cloud is a cornerstone of the digital transformation journey. And we'll hear a little later how one major bank has already migrated the majority of what they have to a cloud. The second aspect is DevOps. DevOps is needed in order to produce technology at a faster rate, cheaper, and with excellent quality. I'm not going to describe that here because that actually is the second layer, the processes and methods by which delivery is done today. The third aspect is what we call predictive technologies. That involves 3 disciplines you'll be familiar with: artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. Why do we call them predictive technologies? Because it's essential to understand that at their core, these are simply predictions. When we understand that, then we can understand that it's not necessary for us to re-engineer our entire organization just to take advantage of them. Why? Because they're predictions. So if we look at an existing organization, your company, you already have processes. Those processes are broken down into workflows, and those workflows have predictions that occur within them. One example might be, I'm going to lend you some money. What is the probability that you will pay that money back? Today you may have some system, or you may have an Excel spreadsheet that provides you with a prediction. It sits within your workflow. If I can simply take that out and replace it with an artificial intelligence prediction, one that has no passion, one that has no greed, and it provides you with a higher level of surety as to the accuracy of that prediction, you can then pop that into your workflow and just carry on. So predictive technologies can be easily deployed today. They don't need major re-engineering. The final aspect is channel strategies. One of the sad things of the last few months has been that people's communities no longer exist. They're stuck at home. Their financial community is immensely important to them. People are worried, they're concerned. They need to have some level of security and surety that through a channel strategy, firstly, they can execute flawlessly and quickly with your organization. Secondly, that with the abundance of fake news that's out there, that your organizations with trusted names and brands can provide them with a reliable source of information and knowledge. And thirdly, that your organization can help them build a sense of community around their financial needs that keeps them attracted to you, that helps them deal with the stress and the emotional problems that are occurring as a result of this pandemic, which sadly will last a little longer, and can do that in a safe and secure environment. So at the top level, we have the cloud, We have Predictive Technologies, DevOps, and channel strategies. So let's cascade down one. What is DevOps? Well, DevOps itself can be described as 4 components. The first component is microservices. What are microservices? Well, previously we would go through a mechanism of creating a rather large requirements document and then sending that down to a set of developers who would build a large chunk of code, and that would then go off to testing. A microservice, however, is a very small fragment of code. The inputs and the outputs to that fragment are frozen, let's say religiously. They cannot change. Why is that? Because once we've done that, the fragment of code itself can change constantly without affecting the rest of the system. One example of that we see with Google. If you go to google.com, you have a little box, and above it you'll be familiar with the image. That image is changed on a regular basis, at least daily. But Google does not take the entire system down and do a system test, because that is a microservice, where the input and the output remain constant, and so they can change the image without any further impact. We can design and build entire systems using microservices today. The second aspect, which is why we call it DevOps, is that the technical operations people sit inside the development team. And they do that because then we can describe the infrastructure inside our code. What do I mean by that? As your application boots up, it can say to the cloud, would you please give me 16 CPUs, GPUs, whichever way you want to go. We can have the software itself monitor the use of the hardware. If it finds that it's not using 16 and it only needs 12, then over a period of time it can say, please can you reduce this down to 12, thereby saving us costs. Or if it can see that we're reaching a peak of maybe 80% capacity, it can say, as you reach this, I then want you to commission for me another 4 processors that I can use. So the infrastructure and the code enables us to expand up and contract down the infrastructure that we use on the cloud. The third element is that rather than writing a business requirement and taking that to a developer and having them code it, we build to test. So we're actually writing a test script inside an automated testing tool. If we do this from the outset, it gives us a huge advantage. What it means is that as we do system testing, it can be done at the click of a button. So changes can be far easier to test and to put into production. And the final aspect, maybe you've heard of, we call it CI/CD. That's continuous integration, continuous deployment. The techniques of CI/CD, using the pipe, enables us to be able to put stuff into production on a very regular basis, daily, perhaps in some cases even hourly. This, coupled with microservices, provides a tremendous amount of support and sponsorship to a project. As users sit there, they complain about something, and within a few hours, that part of the system is altered with small changes to a microservice without the need for huge system testing and deployed into production. So the changes become faster, they become cheaper, the system itself more robust and of better quality. So we have digital transformation itself, the cloud, DevOps, predictive technologies, and channels. And we have a method and process using DevOps by which we can deliver that. But how we do our technical method, our development, is also very important. And this is where some organizations get a little confused between DevOps and Agile. We use Agile as the development method. Agile, we're going to break into 3 elements. Firstly, instead of writing a huge business requirement, which is done by a group of specialists, we now ask users to describe their journey. They create what we call user stories. These are simple documents, or maybe a page or 2, describing from a user's point of view what happens. Good morning, I came in this morning, sat down at my desk, I put my finger on the little button there and it read my fingerprint and my screen opened and showed me the following things. In a simple, easily worded document, that user is describing the system. And you as a programmer perhaps can sit there and say, well, I now understand I need some biometrics here. I need to pull up these things on the screen there. They want this in this particular location on their screen. So user stories written by real users, in fact, hundreds of them, now produce the demand for the microservices. These are then given to squads. Squads of perhaps 7 to 12 people, depending on the size of the development that needs to be done. Those squads have defined roles, and we will hear later how the product owner has a special role. Those squads need to operate and interact on a regular basis, which means that they need to be awake at the same time. Product owners typically are inside the client, and in our case, we're here in the Americas, they're going to be within an America's time zone. In order to have an agile squad be highly productive, they need to be in the same time zone. So if you wish to do that and reduce costs, then outsourcing your agile development from east to west, from left to right, is far less effective than doing the same from north to south using resources in Latin America, who, as you will learn during the conference, are already highly skilled at this. So we have user stories. Those user stories are given to squads, and the final element is that those squads operate within a time box of 2 to 3 weeks. The number of people in the squad and the amount of time in the box are constants. What they can deliver is the only variable. So user stories may be added, or they may be delayed to the next time box, depending on the productivity and the challenges of each individual delivery. So agile methods are quite common. You'll be familiar with those, I'm sure. Fitting in with DevOps as the means by which we do the technical aspects can then drive us towards digital transformation. And that is the key to a hands-free environment today. One of the other aspects of digital transformation is ensuring that our transactions are clean and easily settled. New technologies recently have helped us to do this using distributed ledgers or blockchain. And one of the questions has been, can we create infrastructure for the entire market that uses blockchain techniques? Well, we're going to go down to the beautiful city of Santiago in Chile, one of my favorite places for wine and for skiing. And we're going to listen to the executive vice president of the stock exchange in Chile explain to us how they have taken blockchain and deployed that as a piece of infrastructure for key elements of the local market.